Tonight, who has the better poker face, dead man or a literal god? Why in the hell is street-level Nightwing dealing with a demon summoning? And Legion of Superheroes, all that and more this week on the Not-So-New 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 20 of the Not-So-New 52. I am your host and there's only 12 comics this week. It is a light week and as such I have the ability to breathe and take this slowly, and I can even share some news, not current news mind you. I'm going to be recounting news from 10 years ago just to kind of set the scene for what was going on at DC at the time, but news nonetheless. But first, before we get into that, let me share what the comics that were coming out this week 10 years ago was. January 18th, 2012 had the number 5 issues of Batman, Birds of Prey, Catwoman, Nightwing, Red Hood and the Outlaws, Supergirl, Green Lantern Corps, Captain Atom, DC Universe Presents, Wonder Woman, Blue Beetle, and Legion of Superheroes. Oh boy, my favorite. So, yes, news. I googled this just before talking to you now. There are 3 things that are worth noting. Number 1, and most important to this show, DC announced wave number 2 of the New 52. That's right, we are canceling 6 books and bringing in 6 new ones. So the new books that are coming in are Batman Incorporated, Earth 2, World's Finest, GI Combat, Dial H, and The Ravagers, all from various different families doing various different things. The books that are being canceled are Black Hawks, Hawk and Dove, Men of War, Mr. Terrific, OMAC, and Static Shock. All of them with issue number 8 being the last issue. And I can't help but notice Legion was not on that list, thus affirming my lack of faith in God. The second piece of news was that this week DC didn't exactly reveal, but it was leaked via copyright and trademark things, that they are unveiling their new logo, the Peel logo that is actually on all of these books that I have here. The Star logo, I believe it was called beforehand, or maybe it was the Whoosh logo. I don't know. Regardless, it only existed for the first couple months in the New 52. By the time the trades came around, they had already switched to the new one. So, yeah, I'm pretty much familiar with this, and it doesn't really change anything, but new logo. And the only article I could find in the news section was, why does everyone hate DC's new stupid corporate logo? So that was a headline. And number 3, not really related to the comics at all, but this week it was announced that Greg Berlanti and co. would start production on Arrow. Oh boy, if only they knew what would come from that. Just to set the scene for what's going on with DC at the time, that's something to go with. Anyway, enough about bad TV shows. Let's talk about okay comics with our first comic of the week. Batman number 5, written by Scott Snyder, art by Greg Capullo. We left off last issue with Batman getting a hunch as to where he could find some clues, and he accidentally gets tricked into a labyrinth that is hosted by the Court of Owls. This issue is literally just that. It's just the labyrinth for the entire thing. There's a couple cutaways, but it's mostly labyrinth. So this issue picks up on top of the GCPD. Gordon's up there with the bat signal, and Harvey Bullock comes up, and he's like, you're going to burn out the signal if you leave it running. It has been 8 days, and Batman has not shown up. So we get the hint that Batman has been there for a while, but he's like, you got to turn this thing off to preserve some energy. And Gordon's like, no, we got to leave it on. It's not just to call him, it's a symbol of hope and blah blah blah. And he goes through how all the people who are on his side and on our side and whatever, and it's to scare away the criminals or whatever. But it just cuts away and it shows like Damian and Batgirl and Catwoman and Alfred, how they're all worried and trying to find Batman in their own way. So Gordon just tells him, okay, leave it on. And then we go down into the labyrinth, and it's hard to break this down like scene by scene here, because it is literally Bruce Wayne losing his mind this entire time. And you're going to think, as I go through this, that I don't know how to read a comic, because if you're watching the video, I'm going to be turning it all upside down and stuff. But it's part of the craft. So he's down there, he's going around in the dark, and he's trying to find his way either out of the labyrinth or to the Court of Owls, just to beat the crap out of him. And he keeps coming back to this giant owl fountain, and it's his only source of water, and he's been here for 8 days, so he keeps on drinking, despite the fact that he knows he shouldn't. It's probably drugged, but he has to, just to stay alive. So he goes back through the labyrinth again, and he keeps on coming back to another room that, as he enters it, a flashbulb goes off, takes his picture, and he sees that the walls are covered in hundreds upon hundreds of pictures of other people that all look like they've gone through absolute hell. And Batman managed to put together, these are all the people that the Court of Owls has killed over hundreds of years, either down here in this labyrinth or just in general. Like, they took their picture, put them on the wall, and kept them as trophies. But Batman, he's pissed off, and he's like, I'm not going to listen to your stories, you're not real. And he punches out the camera, because that's all he can punch right now. And he keeps moving through the darkness of the labyrinth. He thinks he sees the Court of Owls at one point. He dives after him, and it turns out either it's in his head or it's a trick that they're playing. But he immediately dives to the ground trying to find something, and his monologue just keeps breaking down. He's like, I know all the tricks. Hell, I invented the tricks. And sooner or later, I'm going to find you, and I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to hide in the dark. And then it turns sideways. Like, everything is this way now, of reading a double-page spread, but it's from left to right, is now top to bottom. So he's like, there's a room with a miniature Gotham in it, and he's just making his way through that. There's all these names on the wall, and they don't really show any of the names specifically, but we do see the last names of Cobblepot and Gordon, so I don't know what you want to make of that. Regardless, the Batman doesn't know what they are either. It's like either the people you used or people in your flock or enemies you killed. Regardless, I've heard this story before, and I'm not listening now. So then he makes his way into a new room, one he hasn't seen before, and it's a bunch of caskets all embedded in the ground, and they all have photos of children on them. But one of them is open, and there's nothing inside. And Bruce is like, well, what does that mean? Maybe, and he's like, nope, I'm not giving into your stories. Nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to get out of here. I'm not going to worry about your stuff. And this entire time, his cape just keeps on growing, like, impossibly long. Then he gets into a room that just has, like, the front half of a boat with an owl in the, like, I forget the name of it, but, like, the mast of it, that, like, thing in the front. Usually it's a mermaid or whatever, but this one's an owl. He punches out the owl head after he thinks it's looking at him. He ends back up in the photo room. He has no idea how. He thinks he sees a picture of himself. The camera is repaired, despite the fact he punched it out. And then as he's maneuvering down the hallways, he steps on an egg, and the hallway lights up. And we see that the hallway is covered in eggs now, but down at the end is an elderly Bruce Wayne's parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne. And they're like, oh, we've been down here for so long. Is that really you, Bruce? Oh, and he's like, Mom, Dad, I can't believe you're alive down here in this terrible labyrinth for so long. But yes, it's me. It's your son. And then we flip the book again 90 degrees. So now we're reading it just upside down. And it's revealed that, of course, this isn't his parents. This is some sort of hallucination or something, because his mother's jaw dislocates and an owl comes out and starts attacking him, but then he just concentrates. He realizes it isn't real. He's back in the fountain room. Now his feet have turned to talons, and his hand have feathers and claws on them, and he pries up one of the tiles on the floor and jumps down inside of it, to which he ends back up in the camera room again. And he's just like, nope, this isn't happening. I'm not listening. And as he's just holding his ears, screaming out to nobody, we see the Talon, who's been, I guess, stalking him this whole time, comes up behind him and just stabs him straight through the stomach from behind. And then we go back to right side up, and we see that the bat signal has burned out. It is on fire. Some cops are rushing to put it out, and officer asks Gordon what they should do with it. And Damian drops in on the scene, and he's like, get a new one. Now. Get a new one. And he gets sad for a second. He's like, please get a new one. And it's just Gordon and Damian staring at the burned out bat signal as we end the issue. This was fantastic. Do I really need to tell you that? Like, this was fantastic. My only critique is not with the comic itself, but with the trade, because when I flipped it upside down, you don't then read what looks to be page 1, page 2. You're supposed to read page 2 and then page 1. And I think it would have been better if they changed that, because I started reading page 1 and then I was like, wait a minute, hold on, that's not right. That's my only critique, is that it just, because of the way that they put it in the trade, it doesn't flow properly. But the comic itself is fantastic. Art-wise, you really feel like Batman's losing his mind. Just all the layouts. Writing-wise, it's fantastic as well. Even the framing device on either side of it is fantastic. I'm giving this one an 8 straight. I mean, 8.5, honestly. This might be like the strongest that this comic really has been, because it just, after everything that the previous issues have set up of Batman knows his stuff, this one just takes it all away from him, and it is so well done. I cannot begin to tell you the artistry that goes into it. You really just have to see it for yourself. So yeah, 8 for me. I've always been gushing on this, but I'm definitely looking forward to future issues as well. Birds of Prey number 5, written by Duane Swierczynski, art by Jesus Saiz. We left off last issue with the Birds of Prey plus Batgirl making their way into a building that holds these cleaner guys that they're looking for, and then as soon as they get in there, they get their mind wiped and they end up out on a street. I just don't remember anything. This issue picks up immediately where we left off. They're talking about how they don't remember anything of where they ended up. Poison Ivy is like, hey, Starling, wasn't your hand broken? And she's like, no, my hand's fine. I have no idea what you're talking about. And then they look around and see that there's this whole, like, armed militia around them in the middle of this city. Apparently they don't matter, though, because they literally don't name them or, like, care that they're fighting them at all. They just have this conversation about how they're like, does anyone remember anything at all? Black Canary remembers everyone was in the room, and then they just suddenly were out here. They don't remember what happened. Poison Ivy remembers the same thing, but she doesn't remember that Batgirl was there. She only remembers that there were 5 people. She couldn't remember the 5th. And then Starling and everyone else thinks that nobody fought anybody, but Katana talks to her husband in the sword and was like, no, actually, we fought dozens of them for many hours. That's what my husband says. And everyone's like, right, okay, yeah, cool. So can anyone, like, figure out what happened here? And Poison Ivy, she's automatically like, okay, this is dumb. Clearly that didn't happen. I'm willing to help you figure it out, but you're all losing your marbles. And Starling's like, how did you end up here then, huh? And she's like, fair point. Okay. So at this point, they've knocked everybody out, and they're like, all right, look, let's get out of here. They go back to a safe house, and they're like, we need to rest and regroup. Let's all meet up in 24 hours. I know a place to go. And just so nobody's confused with any other memory stuff, I'm going to write it down on your arms. So she writes an address down on Starling's arm, and Poison Ivy says, hey, you're not putting any of those inky chemicals on my skin. Just let me see the address. So she writes down the address, and we see it's the roof of the R.H. Kane building. So everyone goes their own ways for a day just to relax and rest up, which relaxing not so much. Starling goes out to a shooting range. She practices her shot. She can't remember having broken her hand, and her hand is fine now, so she genuinely is, like, confused as to why that was brought up at all. But she does think that something happened, so she goes, and I don't know if we've ever met this character before, but she goes and, like, up the fire escape to a woman named June, who she says that she really, really needs to talk to her, and then June's just like, damn you, Ev. So I guess there's history there. Batgirl goes and talks to Black Canary, and Black Canary's like, hey, did you come with us last night? And Batgirl's like, no, what are you talking about? I told you I'm not a huge fan of your team. You guys have, like, killers and whatnot. And she's like, okay, all right. Just wanted to find out. Okay, bye. So she goes out. She starts in a dojo. She starts training, and Katana comes in her civilian outfit, and they just, they talk about how they're feeling and how they feel more alone than ever, despite the fact they're on a team. And Katana tells her, like, well, you have friends, you have me, and you have Starling, and I guess you can count Poison Ivy. And they laugh over that. Then we see Poison Ivy. She's just out in the middle of some woods, I guess, regrowing or getting nutrients or whatever. And a dude in a suit shows up. She starts to attack him. But when she sees who it is, she asks if he has... Well, first off, he asks her how the hero thing is going and whether or not they trust her on the team, which she said she does. And then they make it clear they have some sort of agreement. And Poison Ivy gets a briefcase full of some glowing green something. It's not revealed yet. So then we see Dinah. She's in a diner. And she sees a face in the newspaper for a missing person named Eric Beetner. And it makes her have this big realization. She runs out of the diner and calls up Trevor, who I think was the doctor from like a couple issues. And she's like, hey, you want to have a drink like right now? Suddenly cut to 24 hours after they said they meet up 24 hours from now. And it's the roof of the RHK building. And Black Canary, Katana, Poison Ivy, and also Batgirl are there. And she doesn't remember having been there. And I don't know why she was called here, why she shows up, but she's there. And her and Poison Ivy have a standoff for a second, but then Black Canary gets in the way. And she's like, all right, so here's the thing. I found this face in the newspaper. This is the face of the guy who blew us up like 2 issues ago. Like, he's the one who exploded. So basically she comes to the conclusion that normal people are just being pulled off the streets and turned into sleeper agents. So instead of trying to chase down Choke, they need to chase down these sleeper agents who will then lead them to Choke. Despite the fact that they found Choke last issue, I'm really confused by that. But regardless, she is convinced it's a good plan. And then she realizes, like, wait a minute, hold on. Where's Starling? Why isn't she sewn up yet? And then we see Starling. She's standing on a bridge. And she looks down at her arm. And written on her arm is the Finger River Bridge. And she's like, why am I the only one here right now? Suddenly some men with guns show up behind her. And she's like, wait a minute. Black Canary set me up. Son of a bitch. So she jumps off the bridge, getting shot a couple of times on the way down. And we end on her, swimming away. It's just a thing of her recounting a previous line. I like this issue, but not for the reasons that, like, the issue itself, I like the mystery that it's going on of, like, okay, what's actually going on here, Because we had just that skip ahead of, okay, did we fight? Did we lose our memories? Like, what happened? Katana says we fought. And I trust her sword more than I trust everybody else here, which is strange to say. But then why did Black Canary write down the wrong location on Starling's arm? Why did Batgirl not remember being there? Like, there's a whole bunch of missing pieces here, and I am interested in learning why. But as it stands with just this particular issue and how it's written, like, everyone just goes off and does their own thing and then shows back up later. And Black Canary seemingly comes to the point that I feel like she should have come to 2 issues ago. Like, that they're using sleeper agents. Because why else would a judge and some random politician guy be the... Like, it just doesn't make any sense that she wouldn't have come to this earlier. That's just my personal opinion. I'm going to give this one a 6.5. Everything in that is technically fine. I don't have any problems with anything it does. I do feel like I was supposed to know this June thing beforehand, but if that's also setting up the mystery, then okay, I guess. It just felt like a padding issue that didn't need to be there, but as long as it is here, I'm happy with the mystery they're setting up. But you literally could have just gone from the last issue and had them done the fight, and then I feel like you could have picked up with whatever the next issue is going to be. But yeah, that's just me. 6.5. We'll see how it goes from there. Catwoman number 5, written by Judd Winick, art by Guillem March. We left off last issue with Selena scoring a duffel bag full of cash, getting attacked by some metahuman with energy whip arm things who throw her basically a mile up into the sky. that's where we leave off. This issue picks up with Selina falling, and there's a flashback to years ago where I guess she was in some other situation with Gwen and some other lady that I don't recognize. And the other lady that I don't recognize was like, hey, look, I know things are bad, but that's where shit gets fun. So get out there and do it. So Selina, as she falls, she's realized, okay, what do? Whip. I can whip onto something. I can just grapple. Okay, well, coming down, there's a construction site. There's some steel girders. I'm going to have to whip onto that. Here we go. So she whips onto a girder, and she almost like rips her arms out of the socket because she is freaking out so much, but she manages to whip around and lands inside one of the unfinished floors of this construction site. This entire time she is just straight up freaking out, like, and I think that's reasonable, but she is freaking out. She's like, all right, go limp, hang tight, go limp, hang tight, go limp, hang tight, and she does it. So she lands inside there, and she recounts like, all right, so I'm alive, but I just dislocated my shoulder, and it hurts worse than I could possibly imagine. Also, that metahuman that just threw me up, she is currently floating outside the floor I just landed on, telling me how impressed she was by my display, but how she is still coming in to kill me. So, step one at a time. So she takes a piece of fabric, I think from her clothing. She bites down on it hard as she moves her arm back into position, which, not a fun thing to do. She says, on a suck scale of 1 to 10, we were circling about a 43. And then she gets up and sneaks around the metahuman who was calling out to her, and she just starts laying into her. And the meta does say something of, you got skills, so tell you what, come on out right now and I'll let you walk on this, but you'll owe me a favor or two. So, I don't know. She was willing to let Catwoman go, or maybe it was just a ruse to get her out. Beats me. Regardless, she starts beating the crap out of that meta. I forget what her name was. Reach. She starts beating the hell out of Reach and basically just knocks her out and takes the money. So she gets away. Then we cut back to the GCPD, and the dude Alvarez, who suspected Catwoman of being connected to all those crimes, she's like, hey, I got another one, Lieutenant, and all I need is your sign off to go after her. And Lieutenant's just like, not now, Alvarez. I am up to my neck in shit right now, so I need you to go back to your desk. And as Alvarez tries to push his case, Lieutenant just freaks out on him. And we see the Lieutenant go into another room, and Alvarez sees that he's talking to detectives Mulrooney, Davis, and Esther, who are all apparently extremely dirty cops. So then we see that he's eavesdropping on the group of them, and that a bag of money that was taken from the evidence room, holding $425,000, was taken by Catwoman, and the police were actually using the metahuman in order to get that to where it needed to be, so they're upset that it's been taken. But all the cash is marked, and if she uses it anywhere, it'll be flagged and they can catch her. So then we see Catwoman find out that it's $425,000, realize that she was tipped off poorly, and that this is not just a normal drug money, so she needs to take this, she needs to be quiet, and she needs to go on the run. But first she goes and she spends quite a bit of it because she figures she can get away with like 6 hours before anybody's able to find her. So she goes to a super high-class hotel. She gets champagne, chefs in her room, massage therapist, like manicures, pedicures, the whole works. And as she's getting massage, the guy's like, wow, what did you do to your shoulder? And she's like, tennis. I messed it up on the backhand. So she gives a tip of like $100 to whoever brought in the champagne. And the person who got the tip brought it down to her manager. Manager ran the bill, sees that it's a marked bill, and immediately calls the cops. So then maitre d', whatever you want to call her, comes back up and is like, hey, there's an emergency staff meeting and everyone here has to go to it, so I'm sorry, Miss Cassidy, we're going to have to leave you alone. Okay, bye-bye. So everyone leaves the room, and Catwoman's like, okay, something's up. So the police bust in, this whole SWAT team, but Catwoman's already got a gear on and is jumping out the window. Jumps down onto her motorcycle, and she's like, all right, well, don't know why there are cops, but regardless, I'm out. And as she drives down the alley, she hits the end, and there's just 4 or 5 cop cars just waiting for her. And she's like, down on the ground. She's like, okay, this seems to be a bit much for just taking a bit of drug money. That this is more so than I thought would ever show up. But she flips around the car, or flips around the motorcycle, goes down the other way in the alley, and starts cutting her way through a park that she knows the cops can't follow her into because the roads are so narrow. But as she's going through this park, she sees the cops are still following her. Like, they're jumping over hills and stuff to get to her. And it's at that point she realizes, oh, wait a minute. That wasn't drug money. That was dirty cop money. That was dirty cop money in Gotham City. Oh, no. And as she crashes to the ground because they cut off her motorcycle, she's surrounded by at least 24 cops, all with guns trained on her, telling her that she's under arrest. So yeah, that's where that issue leaves off. I liked it. I honestly, I kind of dig the art in this. It's just frantic enough and just stylized enough to be well done, and I really like the coloring on it as well. It gives it just this, I don't want to say dreamlike feel because it's not, but it's a softer feel to it, while the line work itself is more jagged. I don't know. It's a weird contrast, but I like the way it turns out. Writing-wise, it's a good step forward. I feel like, I don't know. She had her roommate, fence friend, whatever you want to call her, killed, and then she just got away with it, and now she's got the money thing, and I feel like this is just going to be another thing where she gets away with it. And I don't know. I want there to be something that moves forward that's like, okay, here's the actual consequences to your art. Like, other people are suffering consequences. She just hasn't yet. And I want there to be something that she actually learns from. Because right now, if you told me what the central focus of this arc is, I couldn't tell you. I have no idea what's going on in terms of a central focus. It seems like it's her learning that there are consequences for her actions, but so far she's managed to dodge like all of them. So, I don't know. I'm interested in seeing if this is finally the thing, because she's definitely going to jail here. Unless somebody swoops in here at the last second and saves her, there's no way she's getting out from 24 armed cops in the middle of a park in the middle of the day. So, yeah. No, overall, though, I'm going to give this one a 7. I think it's well enough done. There's maybe like 3 pages in the chase scene with the cops that, I don't know, just seem a bit gratuitous and unnecessary, but that's just me. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if this arc actually solidifies on something or if it's just going to be a loose connection of, and then Catwoman stole more things. Nightwing number 5, written by Kyle Higgins, art by Eddy Barrows. We had last issue be a one and done, more or less, where Nightwing crossed over with Batgirl. And at the very end of the issue, he realized what the heart of the circus was and got a book with a bunch of old names. And on the last page, or on one of the last pages, was his name. This issue is, once again, just like another one and done. I don't know why they're doing this, but regardless, it picks up in a graveyard where a woman is like sacrificing or calling to spirits or whatever. And some lightning strikes and a demon pops out of this grave and only speaks in rhyme, which I guess, sure, whatever. And apparently the woman's name is Zona. The demon's name is Asharon. And Asharon's like, all right, you summoned me, what do you want? And Zona says how she wants the demon to go get somebody and bring him to her. So then we cut over to Dick Grayson. Apparently this is all happening in Louisiana, New Orleans specifically. And he's on a motorcycle after doing some Nightwing stuff, I guess. And he is passing by the train that holds all of the carnival stuff, or the circus stuff. And apparently he memorized like every state's railroad routes and the roads that run parallel and over top of the trains so that he's able to like get on them, which seems ridiculous to me, but regardless, he jumps into the train, his personal like storage train on the or the personal storage car on the train, and he just recaps everything that's happened over the past few issues. And then he's like, all right, so Raya has been ignoring me for like a week now because of Barbara being around that one time, I guess, though I don't quite understand why. And also the son of Mr. Haley, Brian, hates me for stealing the circus from him. So that's about as bad as it gets. And then we meet up with Jimmy the Clown, who apparently has been given notes saying that, oh, we're supposed to be together, Jimmy. We're supposed to be together forever. And so Raya comes up and is like, hey, Jimmy, you look whiter than usual. And he's like, mind your own business. And someone comes up and says that Mark comes up and says that the ground is too soft to set up the big tent, so they need to lay down some cement, and someone needs to go talk to Dick in order to get his permission. So Raya is shafted off to do it, even though she doesn't want to talk to him. Dick's apparently been having nightmares ever since he met up with Zane of basically one of the last times that he saw his parents, which was also when he was rehearsing the opening ceremonies of the show with Raymond, who also, I guess, has bad memories, well, with the being dead and all. So then there's a knock at the door. He wakes up, and Raya's there, and he, of course, gives permission for the cement thing, and he's like, so is there anything else you want to talk about? Like, maybe us? Maybe we could, I don't know, keep doing the whole making out thing we were doing before? And, he says it with more charm, and she basically smiles and says, like, okay, fine, we'll go out to dinner after the show. So the show goes on. We see her doing her trapeze act, and Dick's watching from the ground, but Jimmy is sweating profusely, and Dick's like, hey, you doing all right, Jimmy? He's like, yeah, I just could use some water, And he's like, all right, well, I'll go get you some water. So then, as Dick walks away, the giant demon shows up, grabs Jimmy, and knocks him out. And then Dick comes up, and he's like, hey, leave him alone. Hits him with a chair, and is, of course, just batted away because it's a demon. The demon starts running through the woods behind the circus, which I guess is just a thing. And Dick's like, all right, well, guess I'm going to have to deal with this now. So he drives off. He uses heat tracking in order to track the demon, but it turns out it's actually leaving like a path of cold instead of a path of heat, which is weird considering how much rampage is going on. But then we go back. It's at the graveyard that we opened with. Jimmy is bound up to a grave with the demon like over top of him, and Zona shows up and is like, Jimmy, I told you we belong together, and I summoned this demon using my old family magic in order to bring you here. And Jimmy's like, you are totally crazy. This is why this wouldn't have worked. But she pulls out a ring, and apparently is going to bind their souls together forever, whatever that means. Nightwing, of course, jumps in, knocks the ring out of her finger, starts trying to beat up the demon, which doesn't go so well. He's more or less just being chased around by it and trying to evade it. Zona gets back the ring, sets back up the spell or whatever. Nightwing comes to the conclusion that there's this crest, the symbol on the top of the grave, and that must be the key to everything that's going on. So he, in the last second, jumps out of the demon's grasp, leads it over to the grave, and as the demon's charging at him, he jumps out of the way, and the demon crashes into the crest, destroying the everything, and all the magic stops. Zona starts running away, but Nightwing grabs her and then just talks with Jimmy and is like, hey, you Mr. Clown Man I'm unfamiliar with, what was that all about? And she's just like, dude, I don't even know. Like, she's got her own stuff. And he's like, right, well, bye. So he leaves, and Jimmy's just looking sad at his crazy ex-girlfriend. And then we cut to the next day, and we see Jimmy is staring down a sewer grate, and Dick's like, hey, where were you last night? You kind of just ran off during the show. And Jimmy's like, yeah, sorry, look, there's some stuff that's I left behind me, and just make sure that the stuff you leave behind you is kept behind you, some things are worth burying. And he tosses the ring down into the sewer grate. And then the final page reveal is Psycho is talking to Raya, and we see basically the big reveal is that Psycho is actually a resurrected or something Raymond. And him and Raya are making out, and apparently the big thing that they have to do is get the circus back to Gotham again so that they can finally kill Dick Grayson. And that's the thing. Finally, everything on one page with zero build-up is just like, oh yes, here's who the villain is, here's who is betraying Nightwing, and here's what their big plan is. Okay, sure, yeah. I gotta be honest, I don't particularly care like either way for the main story of the demon thing. Like, it's really, really weird that Nightwing is dealing with that. And there's even a whole page in here where he explicitly says, like, this is really far out of my wheelhouse, and I don't know why I'm dealing with this. But that's whatever. It's an okay story. It's not great. And they did set it up in the last issue with Jimmy getting a note there as well. So it's at least a little bit seeded. My big thing is the fact that the big reveal happens on that last page with nothing leading up to it at all. And like, that's an arc thing as well. I guess you could say the same is true for the last issue, but that was he found the book. He doesn't know what it means. He doesn't know anything about that. This is like the whole of everything is revealed on a one page with no build up. I'm not a big fan on that. So overall, I'm going to give this one a 6. And mostly it's there because of the art. The writing wise, like I said, the main story average, and it's brought down by that last part. So the only reason it's still at a 6 and not like a 5 or a 5.5 is because of the art genuinely being pretty good throughout. So yeah, that's disappointing, but it can only go up from there. Red Hood and the Outlaws, number 5, written by Scott Lobdell, art by Kenneth Rocafort. Left off last issue with Red Hood about to fight one of the untitled demon things, and Arsenal going after Corey Starfire, who was attacked by some big green winged beast thing named Crux, who was also a human in the past, who hated Starfire's race because they all killed his parents or something. It's a lot. Anyway, this issue picks up with Crux just flying over, just like, haha, I have defeated Starfire and turned her human, and now I will make my escape. And then he gets shot by a high voltage arrow from Arsenal. And he's like, dude, who even uses arrows anymore? And Arsenal's like, I do. The guy with the trucker hat and the hoodie. So here, I'm going to pin you to the ground with these stupid arrows. Then I'm going to go check on Starfire. And if she's missing any part of her at all, I'm coming back to kill you. So he goes off, and Crux is like, but why aren't you on my side? You're human too. And we go back to the Jason fight. And he's just bantering with the Untitled. They're going back and forth, taking swats at each other. But basically it comes down to the fact of Red Hood thinks that the Untitled killed all of his brothers in the All Cast, whereas the Untitled are like, no, you guys are the one who broke the truce. So they're both being played, and yet despite the fact they realize this, they keep fighting each other. Like, they don't bother to stop, despite the fact that neither of them, like, wants to do this. Like, they genuinely do not care to stop this fight, despite the fact that neither of them want to do this. So anyway, they keep fighting, and Red Hood makes the point that the Untitled is giving off such pure evil that it's taking him off guard. He's not as good as he should be, and he falls into a fountain. And then we get Arsenal. He comes across Corey. She is like ice cold to the touch because this was a frozen lake that she fell into. He sets off a thermal arrow, which is just a normal arrow, but it catches on fire. And he tries to warm her up, and they have a cute little moment together where he's like, "Oh, you're okay now. We'll take care of you." Da 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 da. And as they're sitting there for a second, of course, Crux comes up and just swats Arsenal up, and he's upset that they actually care about Starfire. Like, apparently he's been around paying attention over the past couple issues, and he's like, based off of the way you were treating her, I figured you were just using her as a tool for your own stuff. But you actually care about her? You make me sick. And I'm like, yeah, you were kind of just using her, weren't you? Anyway, so then as Jason's down inside of this fountain, and the Untitled's like, you can't stay down there forever. It's just a normal depth fountain. I don't know why it doesn't just dive in and kill it. But regardless, Jason's having a flashback to his time at the All-Cast. Apparently he was the first human in 1,000 years to survive the cleansing, whatever that means. And then he talks to Dukra and was like, hey, look, I'm really happy that you, like, made me one with the universe and showed me that, being an assassin is more of a spiritual thing than anything else. But I really, really, really can't get out of my head how pissed I am at the Joker and also Batman for letting me die. And Dukra's like, yeah, no, that's fair. You still have a story arc to go through. This is just the beginning of your journey, though. Yeah, when you manage to finally overcome that dark fury, it's going to be glorious. So then we cut back to present. Jason jumps out of the fountain. He has these two magic swords that apparently need blood to power them up, so he uses his own blood, and he's like, in this moment, I don't care about Batman or the Joker. I am a member of the All Cast, and I will fight for the clan and my brothers and blah, blah, blah. So he goes after the one who's there, and he's just like, look, I don't know what happened, but I know that you guys are the enemy. So I'm going to kill you first, and then I'm going to kill all of your kin and all your brethren. And just skipping a page real quick, he plunges the swords into the Untitled, and he's like, but it wasn't me. We were used. And he's like, I don't care. And so he makes his big thing. As he kills the Untitled, it transforms back into its human form, which, if you remember, was the sheriff of the town. So, of course, all of the people of the town hearing the fighting come, and they're like, what have you just killed our shit? That doesn't even look human anymore. What did you do? And Jason's like, shit. So then we go back to Arsenal, who's trying to kick Crux in the face. Isn't doing nothing. Apparently, Crux thinks he's just a burnout with a beanie if his arrows were taken away. So Arsenal's like, okay, fine. So he unclicks his arrow pouch, his quiver, whatever you want to call it, covers up Corey, and he's like, you might want to hold on a second. And the pouch explodes. It was a self-destruct feature. And as Crux, Corey, and Arsenal all go down into the ice, Corey gets her powers back miraculously, pulls them all out. And Arsenal's like, but I thought he said he took your powers. And he's like, well, he would have if I wasn't experimented on for years of my life, which we are never going to talk about again. And he's like, noted, got it. And as Starfire's about to blow him up, Jason comes out of the woods and was like, hey guys, I don't know what's going on with you guys. Frankly, don't really care that much, but we gotta go because I got an angry mob chasing after me. So let's go. And they all fly off and escape the town. As I guess the marching order of the book now is that Red Hood is a warrior of the All Cast, and it is going to be his mission to hunt down and kill all the Untitled that may be out there. He has no idea how many that is. He has no idea how many towns they control, but that's his goal now. Okay. If that's the marching order, I'm glad we have a marching order. I'm happy to know, okay, this is what this book is going to be. Or at least, I can't imagine this is just going to be a this arc thing. This sounds like this book is going to be him hunting down all the Untitled and getting revenge for his stuff. If it is just 1 or 2 arcs, I'm fine with that. But at least we know, okay, this is what the character wants to do. In terms of Starfire and Arsenal still needs something to do. But Starfire, was that really it? She fought a battle, she lost the battle, she lost her powers, she got her powers back, and then they just left. I don't know. To me, that seems really poor in terms of, what are we doing with this character? The fact that, I don't know, maybe if they set up the Crux was anything more than just a really, really racist guy, then maybe it would have mattered, but I don't know. For me, it's I'm glad that Jason has something to do, but I really want the other 2 characters to at least have some thing that they want. Right now, it seems like they're setting up Arsenal to want Starfire, which, okay, I guess, but that's pretty lame motivation, all things considered. And Starfire has nothing right now. She's still just flying around, doing whatever she does. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm okay with the issue, but in terms of, okay, we're setting up where we're going from here, I feel like there's more you could have done. I feel like, especially with the other characters. We got the 1. I just wanted the other 2 as well. But hopefully that'll come soon. So overall, mostly for art, because the art, again, is super fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 6.5. I think it's decently well done, but it still is just a little bit above average, a little bit below great. So, yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with the other 2 characters and Jason moving forward. Supergirl number 5, written by Michael Green and Mike Johnson, art by Mahmud Asrar. We left off last issue with Supergirl beating the Tycho guy, blowing up his satellite, and then getting a sunstone, which I guess has a message from her father. And she thinks like, oh, I can go back and get Superman to help me with this, but can I trust him? What if I just go back home? Like, can I do that? And this issue, she does it. She just turns around away from Earth and just straight up flies back towards Krypton. Apparently somebody is watching her, and they're like, oh, the Kryptonian from that planet, she's leaving. What do we do? Do we intercept? And they're like, no. Let's follow her. Let's just keep an eye. And she's like, oh, she's coming back the way that we came here. It's like, cool. But we're just gonna let her be alone, and we're gonna get to her when we get to her. Whoever that is, I don't know. We'll find out. And then Supergirl's like, okay, I'm in deep space, and I've been holding my breath this whole time. What am I doing? Like, what happens if my powers give out? Am I gonna die out here? This is a lot. She's like, all right, whatever. I just got to get home. Just focus on that. Don't focus on the probably dying thing. And as she's thinking like all the things she wants to see when she gets home, her parents, her friends, gardens, everything like that. She just wants that, and she's like, oh man, I'm never going to get back there. It's going to take eons to get there at this speed. And as she's thinking that, the sunstone starts pulsing and flashing, and she comes across this gate in the middle of space, just this portal, and she's like, all right, well, the sunstone wants me to go through. Could be a trap. Let's do it. She goes on through, and she's like, all right, well, it felt like my insides froze, but I'm good, and the stars around here look like the stars from home. Oh boy. They say at least they're different. And as she flies down and follows basically where the sunstone feels like it's like trying to get her to go, there's a small blue star, and she's like, well, that's not Krypton's sun, because Krypton's sun is red, but there is a city on an asteroid floating around this star. I guess it wants me to go there. So she lands down on the city, and she's like, oh no. That's impossible. This is my hometown. This is my city. What just happened? She's like, why is it ripped off of Krypton? Where are the people? It's all in ruins. What happened? She's freaking out a little bit. But she immediately flies back to where her home was. And she's like, man, this room, it looks like they just left it yesterday. But there's so much dust on everything. Like, this was abandoned some time ago. She goes down into her father's lab. And she finds the place where she can put the sunstone. She gives it a little bit of a charge because there's just no power anywhere, so she uses a bit of her own energy to heat it up. And the sunstone starts giving its message, and it's a hologram of Kara's father, and he's like, hello, my beautiful daughter. So here's the deal. The planet is going to be destroyed. Krypton is going to be destroyed. And Kara's like, oh no. Superman was right. Dang it. Okay, continue. And he basically is like, all right, I have a plan to at least save the city. I've made a force field that I think can like protect the city for long enough for us to like land it on another planet that we can then inhabit. That's the plan. But it's risky and it's stupid and it's probably not going to work. So I'm not going to risk that for you. I'm going to send you on the one escape pod that we have. And then once you get this message, you can come back home, and hopefully we won't even need to read the message. Hopefully we'll just be there. But in case we're not, I'm giving you this message to let you know what happened. And as he's about to say like, okay, here's the truth of what happened to, and then he's cut off because somebody breaks into his lab and shoots him in the chest. And we see all this on the hologram, and Kara gets to watch her father die. She's upset. The sunstone crumbles in her hand, and then she just goes on a tear. She just goes through the entire city of Argo and just starts breaking everything she can get her hands on. And then this person shows up and was like, hey, hi, yep, you have every right to be upset. This sucks. Hi, my name is Rain, and I am here to help you. And Kara immediately turns around and just beats on her. She's like, did you do this? Where are my parents? What did you do to them? And Rain was like, whoa. Nobody has stepped foot on this, like, place until you, just now. Like, this has been abandoned or that entire time. I'm here because I'm just looking for the same answers that you do. That's all I want. And I don't want to fight you. I want to help you. And she's able to hold back one of Supergirl's punches, and she's like, okay, hold on. You're a little bit weaker now. Maybe that's because you're under the blue sun instead of the yellow sun. I don't know. Regardless, you're weak now. Shut up. So she asked Kara if she knows of what the World Killers are. And I think we mentioned that back in issue 1, that they are a banned technology from Krypton, and they were too dangerous to exist and whatever. And Rain was like, okay, here's the thing though. The World Killers do exist, and I think they have the answers that you seek. And then, once again, Kara just goes on a tear, tries to beat her up, and is like, what happened to Argo? What happened to my family? Huh? And Rain's getting a little bit pissed off that she keeps on getting punched, so she takes out her sword, goes to swipe Kara, and Kara just snaps it with her hand, and she's like, you broke my sword, you bitch. And she just starts wailing on Kara. And she's like, all right, I thought you were going to be cool. I thought we were going to be great here, but it turns out, no, that's not going to work. So let me just tell you the things that I know so far. I'm a world killer. Hi, it's a living thing, and it's me. I'm one of them. And I wanted to know about my creation, so I tracked down Krypton, but wouldn't you know it was all blown up, so I'm just looking for answers too. You're completely rude. And she shoves the sword inside of Kara's costume, pinning her to a wall. And just like, I just want to know who I am and why I have this urge to conquer and rule and destroy and slaughter. But now all the answers are gone. So if you want to chase after me, feel free. But this meteor rock surrounding this blue star is going to fall out of orbit soon, and I don't think you have the energy to get off it. So good luck, peace. And she just flies off. And that's where we leave the issue, is Kara trapped in Argo City, about to crash into the sun, perhaps. I like it. I think it's a good turn of, like, from the last issue, because it was like a 2-issue, 3-issue arc, if you really want to consider it that. Now we're just completely changing to, okay, we're discovering stuff about her planet. We're discovering things like that. I'm good with that. I like that there's some answers here as to, like, all right, what happened? How did Supergirl get here? And we get a very nice, well-told story, but in getting the answer, we now wonder, okay, who killed her dad? Like, who's that? And then Rain shows up and brings in a whole new reign of answers and questions and whatever. So, yeah, no, I'm good with this issue. I think it's very well done. I really, really like everything from the page where she lands on Argo City right up until Rain shows up, because it's just all emotion of despair going to hope and relief that she sees her dad again, and then upset that her planet actually did die, and then having to watch her own die. It just goes through a really nice sequence there. So overall, I'm going to give this one a 7. I think it's very well done. I would definitely suggest looking at it. If you haven't just read this arc as a whole, I don't know if this technically counts as the origin story. I feel like we're going to get some more, but I feel like this will probably be the issue where it's like, okay, and then she was put in the pod and she went through. We still don't know. She was in stasis, according to the dad. I guess that can say why she stayed the same age, but I feel like there's more explanation to that as well. So, yeah, no, we'll see what happens. But Supergirl's doing really, really good for me. Green Lantern Corps number 5, written by Peter Tomasi, art by Fernando Pasarin. We left off last issue with the Martian Manhunter showing up, doing some telepathic interrogation on one of the Keepers, and telling Guy that they're all showing up to Oa to steal the central power battery. This issue picks up with Guy meeting up with Kilowog, who's training some newbies, and saying, hey, Kilowog, I need a list of the biggest, baddest Green Lantern members there are. Quote, the toughest sons of bitches in the Corps. And Kilowog's like, all right, well, I got some guys. They're called the Mean Machine. And he's like, I thought they were all dead. And Kilowog's like, nah, a couple of them are still hanging around. They actually go to Warriors, which is Guy's bar. And he's like, I think I'd remember seeing these guys if they were in my bar. And he's like, well, they don't go to your bar exactly. They made a new bar underneath your bar. So, yeah. And Guy's like, all right, cool. So he flies off, goes to his bar. And after, I guess, some cameos from characters that I'm supposed to know if I knew Green Lantern history. He finds a hole in the basement of the bar that leads to this underground, dingy, dark-looking bar where we meet Lee, Bronchuk, Aldo, and Flint. And he's like, hey, guys, what are you doing under my bar? And he's like, what do you're over top of our bar. But yeah, we do appreciate the free alcohol, so thanks. And we see these guys are older. They're a little bit more washed up, but they still got the fighting spirit to them. And Guy lets them in on the situation. He's like, look, there's these guys named the Keepers. They got some hostages, and they have to be stopped. They're immune to Green Lantern energy, so I need tough people. And he's like, you want some old guys who no one's going to miss. He's like, no, I want somebody who's going to bring the pain. You guys in? And they're like, yeah, we're in. So then we cut back, and the Mean Machine is meeting up with the other Green Lanterns who were also on the previous mission. And Martian Manhunter's there. And nobody's really seeing eye to eye. Everyone's just kind of like, oh, you think you're so tough? What makes you so tough? And blah, blah, blah. They're all just up on each other. And Guy basically gets in the middle like, hey, we got a mission. Cool your jets. I don't care if you guys are pissed at each other for whatever reason. Just get over it. And then Martian Manhunter gives the history of the Keepers. And basically, the Green Lantern Corps, Green Lantern members, had a problem where their batteries were running out of energy at critical moments. So they had to get a way to get their power batteries in the middle of the fight, possibly over huge distances of space. And the Guardians of the Universe went and found a planet that I don't know if it had a name, Urak, that reacted well with the power batteries, such that when they were like planted in the ground, they were able to be teleported like across massive distances of space. And while the planet itself worked well, the people on the planet were like dying because there was no food and no crops, and it was just a bad place to live. So the Guardians made a deal with them of as long as they tended to these lanterns, kept them protected and safe, and did everything they needed to do, the Guardians would provide for them in perpetuity. And that's why they were called the Keepers. They were keeping the lanterns. And it was a good symbiotic relationship. The lanterns caused the crops to grow better. It was an energy source and made things good. And in time, it imbued the Keepers with this natural willpower. But then one day the Guardians showed up and were just like, okay, well, enough of that. And they took all the lanterns back and they just left. And as such, they weren't caring for the planet anymore. And so they got pissed as their planet began to die. So that's basically Martian Manhunter's like, okay, I've told you all I needed to, goodbye. And he fades away. And Guy's like, all right, so how do we get past some people who have a natural resistance to our willpower? And they talk for a while and basically come up with the idea of we need to instill fear in them in order to overcome their natural willpower. And as such, I think one of the Mean Machine makes the suggestion of we need some kind of fear bomb and guns. Lots of guns. And Guy Gardner's like, I like the sound of that. So then we cut back to Urak, the planet of the Keepers. The Corps that was taken hostage is being tortured by, I guess, the leader of the Keepers. And they're just like, wow, all right, so you guys want to do what I say now? And they're like, no, we're still Green Lantern Corps members with willpower. And he's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And John basically, he drops for a second that the Guardians did something. And John's like, what are you talking about? What did the Guardians do? And the King loses his cool for a second, but he's like, nope, I'm not going to go through that story. Just know that they did a lot. And my entire goal, my big final thing, now that we've taken all these resources from all these other planets, is I'm going to go through the entire Corps. I'm going to cut off each of their ring fingers, and I'm going to plant them in the holes that used to hold the lanterns. And only then will I rip the power battery out and set it on this planet so that we may be the center of the universe. But first things first, I need you guys to tell me how to get through the force field around Oa without alerting them. Your rings know that. All you got to do is ask them. So ask them. And John's like, no. And he's like, cool. Zap. Tortures them some more. So then we go to the science cells, which are like the prison cells underneath of Oa. Guy Gardner wants to take out 2 Yellow Lantern Corps members who have just this natural predisposition to just spread fear everywhere. Like biologically, it is within their being of just wreaking a scent of fear. And Guy's like, Cool, cool. They're creepy. They're named Fat Man and Little Boy. And he's like, yep, I will take these two to go. Put them in a doggy bag. So then they are taking a interceptor ship, which is, instead of just flying there, it's an actual ship. And he's like, well, we're conserving ring power, and we are taking along a special payload. And Sarlacc, I think his name is, Selak, he's pissed off because like, oh, you don't need to do this. It's against protocol to take the Yellow Lanterns out of science cells. And everyone just kind of gangs up on Sarlacc for a second. He's like, Sarlacc, you suck so much. Just let us do our job, for God's sakes. And Sarlacc's like, I guess, all right, fine, do whatever. So then we cut to a pirate ship that is about to try to make a deal to sell some weapons, but then double-cross them. And they're literally saying this out loud. And then as soon as the buyers show up, they immediately turn tail as the Green Lantern Corps just comes in and wrecks shop. Like they're just tearing this ship apart, looking for something. And as they finally manage to beat up all the pirates and get down into the holding cells, they find what they're looking for, which is a lot of guns. So then we get this final page of everybody who's going in on this mission, the Meme Machine, Guy Gardner, and all the other Lanterns from before, just head to toe, like 90s style, just guns everywhere. And he's like, all right, let's do this. And that's where we leave. I like this. I like the backstory of the Keepers. I think it's a very well done. It's a nice story. I'm assuming that there was something in Jeff Johns' story, or possibly just within history, that made sense as to why the Guardians took all the Lanterns. I'm just accepting that as a thing now. Art-wise, it's fine. I still don't understand why we had to have Martian Manhunter just pop in and be like, hello, I'm here to give you information, when at the same time they've made it clear that there are telepath Lanterns on the planet. I don't know. I feel like that was just writing for the sake of like, hey guys, can we have like 7 different books all have Martian Manhunter pop up? Because it's been quite a few. I'm okay with the whole setup for the plan. It just seems like corny fun, if I'm going to be honest. It just seems like they're just like, all right, we're just going to go in and, do a whole big thing. Like, it's just going to be fun. So, no, I'm okay with that. I'm going to give this one a 7. I think it's good. I think that there are still some issues, mainly just in terms of, like, the hostage thing. Mostly, it just doesn't really flow. Like, it's just 2 to 3 pages out of this whole thing. And it's like, all right, well, we're just here to remind you that these characters are being tortured. They are being tortured, and that is crucial to remember. And it's like, yeah, we know they are. That's been the rest of this book. So no, overall, though, 7, it's still very well done. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it wraps up. I think we got like 1 or 2 more issues left in this arc, but the Guardians just suck. Captain Atom number 5, written by J.T. Krul, art by Freddie Williams II. We left off last issue with Captain Atom seemingly burning with radiation Renita's hand without even realizing it, and a family being absorbed by a diner that has itself been absorbed by that weird goop monster thing that we've been following for like 5 issues now. This issue picks up with Captain Atom just standing by the edge of a pool. He's looking at a sea turtle, and he's just trying to figure out what's going on here. He feels like he's a monster. He can't believe he hurt Renita. He never thought that was something that he could do to someone, but he did get close to her and burn her. And he's just looking at the turtle as it approaches him. And he's like, "Oh, don't get too close. I might burn you." So he thinks like, all right, what can I do? What can I do here to help Renita? And he has this idea of, he basically just storms up to the continuum where she's trying to heal up. He moves past Eiling and all the military. He just swats him down out of the air. He grows to this incredible size so that he can't be defeated. He swats down everything, and he just literally goes. He picks up Renita. Renita freaks out. She's like, "What do you want from me? What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm just trying to help you." And she's like, "No, don't." And he tries to help her, and her face just disintegrates as he's like, "No, oh God, what have I done?" And he's like, "All right, doesn't have to end up like that, because that was all just a hypothetical in his head. Perhaps I could just be a little bit more refined than that." So he turns himself invisible, and he teleports to the Continuum facility. And he just phases his way through the walls until he gets to Renita's room. And inside Renita's room, Dr. Alexander's like, why is she not waking up? As Magala's also in there. And Magala's like, she's in shock, Alexander. That's not unusual for someone to go through after that significant of an injury. And Captain Atom pops in and he's like, hey, hi, I'm not here to hurt her. And Alexander's like, yeah, okay, you're not here to hurt her. Get out of here now. You are only going to mess things up. And he's like, I'm only here to help. And he's like, yeah, and you're going to mess it up again. And basically it's just a big blow up between them where Alexander basically says, like, you are a mistake. You are a nightmare. You are a monster. You should not be alive. Like, end of story. You are only causing pain and suffering to those around you. And Magala interjects, and he's like, hey, hold on, wait a minute. If you're here, General Eiling is still looking for you, and he got a trace of your energy signature in Washington State. And Captain Adam's like, I haven't been there at all. I have no idea why he thinks that. He's like, well, who's responsible for the energy then? So Captain Adam's like, all right, I guess I'll go check that out. Scott, you calm your tits. So he goes and he tries to find out what Eiling's up to. Apparently they sent in, like, they got a whole small town in Washington State surrounded. They sent in a survey team to see what's up. They didn't come back, so Captain Atom flies in under the radar. He's not letting Eiling know he's there. And he's like, all right, well, this is a small town. It's quiet, but dear God, there's literally not a person anywhere. Where are they? And as he turns the corner, he sees this giant amorphous blob that just has the word diner across its forehead. And he's like, my God, what are you? So he goes in and he's like, oh, okay, so that organic bile is not just, surrounding a building. It is the building. So it gets a grip on him and drags him in. We cut back to the continuum where Dr. Alexander and Magala are talking. And Magala basically calls out Dr. Alexander. It's like, dude, this isn't you, like, fearing him. You have a certain level of hatred for him that goes beyond, like, what his potential is. You just hate him underneath as well. And Magala basically points out, like, this is what science is. Like, I don't fear him because, A, I'm kind of responsible for his condition, but B, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to do discoveries like this. And Dr. Alexander's turning over something in his hand, and Magala asks what it is, and it's a feather. And it's one of the feathers that was a part of the jets that he just, with a wave of his hand, turned into feathers. And Alexander's somewhat in awe because he's like, he turned inorganic matter to organic matter, and he didn't even need a rib to do it. So he's clearly got some refinement for it. Captain Atom is essentially God, and he doesn't know how to use his powers, which is terrifying to him. So we cut back to the fight, and we see Captain Atom just blasting away at the creature, whatever it is. He's like, I'm not going to kill it. I'm not going to kill it because maybe you aren't a monster. Maybe you're just misunderstood. I have a certain kinship with that. And he flies inside the monster, and he sees that there are these human faces just embedded inside of the monster skin. He's like, oh, you killed the entire town. You are a monster. Okay, I'm going to kill you now. And he blasts it with massive amount of energy. But turns out that the energy wasn't destroying it at all. It was feeding it because, like the energy signature is so similar to Captain Atom, the monster is like him. It absorbs energy. And we see this final shot, double-page vertical spread of Captain Atom just in the jaws of this creature with all these tentacle things coming after him. And that's the end of that. So, yeah. No, this issue doesn't quite have, like, the level of philosophy or the level of insight that the previous issues have, but it's not bad. It's not bad in any means at all. I am so glad we're finally dealing with this goddamn goop monster. I think I've said for literally the past 4 issues of, and then there's this thing, which we haven't dealt with yet anyway, but now we're finally dealing with it. And I see where the similarities are now. Because it has this way of absorbing things like Captain Atom can absorb energy, it has these parallels. But whereas it actually is a monster, Captain Atom isn't. And it's the question of where those lines are drawn between monster and superhero. So I really like that aspect of it. Writing-wise, like, yes, there was the giant monster fight, but even the giant monster fight was all just doused in the philosophy of it. this really didn't have that much in terms of like, hey, he's going out and he's going to fight because that's what superheroes do. It's more of he's trying to figure out how he can use his powers to help, and all he's doing is like making mistakes. I think that's the general point of this, of if you have the power of God, can you afford to make mistakes? And that's a good insight to look into. As for this issue, I think it's very well done. I'm going to give this one a 7.5. I'm really enjoying Captain Atom on the whole for like just the questions it brings up, and the art style is very stylistic. It is not house style at all, but it works. It honestly works for this different feeling that I think Captain Atom is trying to get across, because he just feels so different than all the people behind him, which are like doused in heavy inks, whereas he's more painterly and watercolor. So yeah, no, I'm all in for Captain Atom. I'm looking forward to seeing how this arc ends, which I think is going to be next issue, but we will see if that's just where the trade ends or what's going to happen. DC Universe Presents number 5, aka Deadman number 5, written by Paul Jenkins, art by Bernard Chang. We left off last issue with Boston meeting with the Son of the Morning and getting a bargaining chip that he can use against Rama, and then Rama being very, very pissed about this. This issue picks up with basically the confrontation. It is Boston standing up to Rama and saying, all right, let's do this. So it comes up and Boston, still in the body of the veteran, his name is Johnny, basically saying like, look, you told me my task was to, you gave me an impossible task, and you said if I failed, I'd be left to wander around as a ghost. But you failed to mention that's all I would be doing anyway. And Rama, just pissed off at the arrogance at him, she screams his essence out of Johnny, spreads his essence across the universe, and he lands bloody and bruised on the pedestal that represents himself, his own path and soul, however you want to view it. But he stands up and he's like, cry all you want, Rama, I'm not playing this game anymore. And he comments on how the form she took, a beautiful, voluptuous woman, was, of course, exactly what Boston would fall for. So this whole thing was to manipulate him the whole time. This was all just a lie. And Boston's like, why don't you just show me your true form? And so she does reveal her true godlike form, and Boston seemingly recoils from it. But he's like, look, regardless of your true essence or whatever you want to call it, I'm not afraid of you. I have what you were looking for. I have the thing that you were using me for. So now I have just one card that I can play against you. And Rama's just like, you don't matter to me. You absolutely, like, you are nothing in the universal scale. And he's like, oh, is that not so? Because Son of the Morning says, I do have something that I can use against you. He says hi, by the way. And basically Boston just lays into it. It's like, I know you're looking for a question, because without being able to consider all of the questions, you can never really reach true godhood, and that's what you're after. And you sent me out to find that question, but you never considered what would happen if I was successful. And Rama's like, I consider everything. He's like, no, you try to cover all the angles just like normal people do. But if you really had the ability to cover everything, you wouldn't need a ghost in a trapeze outfit to do your legwork for you. And basically he's like, look, I have what you want. You know you want it. Now we're just haggling over a price. And Rama tells him, like, I could just rip it out of your head, right? He's like, if you could, you would have already. And now you've already let on that you do want this. So let's talk about the price. And he lays into her a little bit and says, like, look, you think that knowing this question will get you one step closer to godhood, because right now you're like maybe halfway there. You are not a true god. And I have this question you want. So what's it going to be? And she just recoils for a bit, but she's like, I will consider what you have to say. And it's this beautiful, like, 5,000 panels on this page. But the main central focus of it is Boston's just asking for a new deal. He's sick that he is still tied in his essence, his being, to all of the beings of the hosts that he's inhabited before, possessed, however you want to call it. And even when he succeeds on his purpose then he would escape from them. But the purpose was always impossible. So he's like, no, here's what happens. From now on, I will succeed for their individual purpose. I will do what they need. But then once that is set, we go our separate ways. Their soul is free to do their thing, and I will do my thing. And she's like, fine, tell me the question, and then I'll do it. And he's like, no, you're going to do it first, and then I'll give you the question. And Rama, of course, she just takes a second, but she snaps her fingers, and then he can feel that not only is the connection broken, it was never there to begin with. Like, the timeline itself has been rewritten to where none of that even happened. And they were always free of Boston's influence, however you want to call it. And Rama's like, there, I did it. But you are still going to be working for me. You are still going to be getting hosts, and you are still going to be completing those missions for them. And he's like, fine, yeah, that's whatever. By the way, the reason that you're so upset at being challenged by a human is that it's showing you humility. It's something that you've never had before, and that's what the question is. The question is humility. The question is, why me? And Rama, she can't understand that. She's like, there is no why. It's just what it is. He's like, no, to a god that may seem that way, but you have that same level of fallibleness as humans do, and you have to question, why me? Why has this happened to me? So Rama takes a second, they stand off, and she says, okay, I'll think about that question. And she sends Deadman back with the new deal in place. So then Deadman's like, all right, so I've sealed it away with Rama. Now I just have to do what's needed for Johnny. And Johnny's been thinking on that same question of why me? Why did I survive that attack on my Humvee when all of my fellow soldiers didn't? So he's trying to, while he may not be able to answer that question, he is going to change the question to something else. And apparently that whole terrorist plot of like the League of Anarchy that I think has made appearances in previous issues, Deadman just possesses Johnny's body, puts him in his old army outfit, and then just destroys them. Like, just straight up he has a rocket launcher. He blows up their truck. He goes on a one-man spree of just taking out this domestic terrorist cell. And as they get through it, they show flashbacks to Johnny's time in the military and all of his going through that stuff. And as the battle's going on, Deadman makes the point of, at some point in there, me and Johnny split. Like, I did what I needed to do. I changed his question. I succeeded in making him not have to worry about, like, survivor's guilt, pretty much. So it goes through and it shows the fallout from it. Johnny became a local hero, but obviously he doesn't care about that. He's just happy that he can now move forward with his life and maybe make some changes to his own stuff. And Deadman realizes that that's kind of the change that's happened within himself as well, is that he has seen himself as the victim for so long. And now he realizes that, no, he's not the victim. He can be the hero. Instead of asking, why me, he can ask, why not me, instead. And that's where we leave off with Deadman changing, I guess, his whole existence. I really like this one. I think I also said I really like the last one as well. It has like a Sandman feel to it. I really like how this one plays it off. Because this just, maybe this is the way Deadman's always be. I'm not familiar enough with the character to know. But this feels like such a fundamental shift in the character overall. And I just really enjoy how it was done. Just this philosophical nature. It's literally just Deadman argues with God for half the issue and then wins. Like, that's incredible to me on just a conceptual level. I love it so much. Art style, great. Maybe a bit stock standard of like house style, but they're like that layout of when he's arguing with Rama and all the creativeness done with that, very well done. Overall, I'm going to give this one an 8. I think it's extremely well done. If you are curious about any sort of Deadman just story, I know that this one technically also comes with Challengers of the Unknown, but I would just check out this trade. I think that 5 issues just to get a feel for Deadman and who he is as a character, I think this is a fantastic place to start. So yeah, that's it for Deadman. Next week we will look at the Challengers of the Unknown and what they have to present in DC Universe Presents number 6. Wonder Woman number 5, written by Brian Azzarello, art by Tony Akins. We left off last issue with Wonder Woman going back to Themyscira, finding out that her mother was defeated in combat by Hera, and then also this framing device of the gods making a push for Zeus's domain. Some people are in, some people are out. This issue picks up in London. There is a boat that's off the coast at the middle of the night, and the drivers of the boat hear a commotion off the side of the road, or off the side of the ship, and they look out and they see what appears to be a dead horse in the water, and then this giant fish coming up to eat it. But then we see beneath the water it isn't a fish, it's actually a giant seahorse, but literally like mermaid bottom, horse top. So yeah, then we cut back to just the next day. Diana, Zola, and Hermes are just outside at a diner having some breakfast, and Wonder Woman just basically makes the case that the two of them needs to stay close to Wonder Woman. So because Hermes is still injured, Zola's pregnant, so she's the only one that can protect if Hera makes an attack. And as they get their breakfast, which is some sort of tomato dish that they are unfamiliar with, a man stops up and he's like, "Hey, I know who you guys are. I know everything about your story. I'm just going to have a sit." He speaks in a very like Cockney accent, at least apparently. I'm not going to do that. So he's like, "Hey, yeah, so I hear talks of everything that goes on. You, Wonder Woman, are a daughter of Zeus." And he lights up a cigarette. Wonder Woman immediately puts it out, claiming that Zola's pregnant, just to make a display of who really has the power here. And he basically just recaps, like, "Yeah, I know everything. I know that Zeus is dead. I know that Zeus is your father, Wonder Woman. I know about you, Hermes. I know all this stuff, blah, blah, blah." The only one he's not aware of is Zola and how she plays into this, but they really don't hide that very well, so that's the whole thing. And basically, his name is Lennox, and he is just here to point out, hey, Zeus's domain of the heavens is now free range for any gods to make a grab on, and they're gonna make a grab on it. So it's gonna end up pretty cagey for all of us kids of the gods. And Wonder Woman's like, "What do you mean kids of the gods? What do you mean us kids of the gods?" And he makes the case that he is a son of Zeus as well. He's a brother of Diana, technically half brother. He fought in World War II. He was in a London bombing, and he just survived without a scratch when everyone else died. So he ran headlong with the Allied forces against the Nazis, just literally running into bullets because he was bulletproof and he could do that. So he took a stand for what he believed in. And Wonder Woman, hours later, they're walking along the London Bridge, and they're making him and or her and Zola are talking about that and saying like, "Yeah, I mean, I guess that's something to be proud of, but you know, it is still kind of weird that he just popped up out of nowhere." And she's like, "It's not any weirder than anything else that's been going on. I mean, you are technically my aunt, Zola. You are my brother's mom," or something like that. So yeah, it's just this weird stuff. But apparently Lennox just told them, "Hey, you want to be at the bridge at exactly 6 o'clock because something crazy is going on." So they're just waiting around for that. Meanwhile, Lennox and Hermes are heading to some, I'm pretty sure it's just a sewage treatment plant. And Hermes is like, "No, I'm not going in there. This is on you." And Lennox is wondering how Hermes is injured to begin with. He's like, "Aren't you guys gods? Aren't you like immortal?" He's like, "Yeah, we're immortal. We're not invulnerable. You should see dinners on Olympus." So Lennox is like, "All right, well, go ahead and be ready to go once I get out of here because I got my own message to deliver." So they're waiting on the London Bridge, and 6 o'clock bongs on Big Ben, and down the London River, the horses that we saw before, those seahorses, multiple ones now, they're just charging up the river. And Wonder Woman's like, "Ah, son of a bitch. I was hoping he was kidding about this. All right, you stay here, Zola." And it's like, "I thought you said we got to stick together." And she's like, "I guess I was wrong." So she jumps down on the London River. Apparently, she can just stand on water. I don't remember this being a thing, but apparently she can. So she stands in the way of these horses, which all just move past her because they are actually the steed of the god Poseidon, who is this giant whale, octopus, catfish thing. He is crazy huge. And Diana just stands there and be like, "My mother was Hippolyta. I request an audience with you." And Poseidon just massive. Like, I cannot overstate the scale of this thing. He's just like, you're more than an Amazon, aren't you? And he's like, yes, I have godly blood in me. He's like, well, Zeus, his bloodline doesn't really matter anymore considering he's dead. Get out of my way. I have no quarrel with you. And then we see Lennox walking in the sewer. He approaches this just inpouring of water, and beyond it, out pops Cerberus, three-headed dog. And Cerberus starts trying to tear him apart, but stepping out of it is this younger-looking man he has black armor and just a head covered in candle wax, who calls off Cerberus. So I'm going to make the guess that this is Hades. Also, the entire time Poseidon is talking, he's basically just reaffirming everything Lennox said of Zeus is gone, we're all making a claim, so Poseidon's making his. And Diana, being ever so sneaky, was like, well, okay, Poseidon, if you want to make a claim to the heavens, but I'm afraid that Hera has already claimed the heavens as hers. And Poseidon gets pissed, uses his tentacles to grab onto Diana. All these tourists get their cameras out, looking over the bridge, so they don't see behind them the two centaurs from, I'm pretty sure, the first chapter that attacked Hermes are now re-entering onto this London Bridge. And Wonder Woman basically just says, like, yeah, Poseidon, Hera's the one who claims the heavens. And then we see Hera standing there like, oh, you suck so much. And that's where the issue leaves off. I don't really feel like a lot happened here. Like, yes, we got the whole Lennox reveal and stuff like that, and the Poseidon and all the claims for the heavens, but I also feel like we already knew the claims for the heavens stuff from the last issue. This one more feels like just getting Diana in the loop of things, just getting her involved and giving her a reason to care about it. So in that way, I think the issue's fine. I think it's well off. Art-wise, it's a little bit weaker than Cliff Chang's stuff, but not by much, honestly. I think it's still very well done. He does a very good job at mimicking Cliff Chang's art. Tony Akins does. So, yeah, I'm very much okay with this. My only real qualm with any of this in an issue is that Lennox just shows up, and then they are just like, okay, he's also a son of Zeus. I think we should trust him. Which, admittedly, they do say in the story, like, maybe we shouldn't be trusting him. Zola makes that point. But it's weird that Wonder Woman was just like, no, everything I know about the gods is that we should trust their children. And it's like, really, though? Like, really? So that just seemed a bit weird character-wise. Overall, though, I don't mind this issue. It's fine. I'm going to give it a 7. And most of that just comes from, I really like these imaginations of the gods here. I like how Hades looks. I like how Poseidon looks. It's so much better than just big white guy with a big white beard. I love these ways of them imagining the gods. Same way I did with Apollo and everything else. If anything, Hera's just the most boring, but she's also supposed to be the goddess of beauty, so I guess it kind of works. Or not beauty. What's her thing? I don't know. Regardless, I'm giving this one a 7. Looking forward to seeing work. Blue Beetle number 5, written by Tony Bedard, art by Guara. We left off last issue with Jaime beating the guys who were chasing after him, including Silverback, and then Paco came out, saw Jaime without his face covering, and the Blue Beetle suit decided, well, can't have that, and stabbed Paco through the chest. This issue picks up with Paco still being stabbed through the chest. Like, it's still in him. Jaime retracts it, and he's like, okay, all right, suit, heal him. And Suit's like, no, I pierced his heart for a reason. We're going to let him die. And it's basically just like a page of him just like yelling at the Suit, saying like, come on, I am not going to help you if you do not save him. You need to do it. It's like, look, I do have a first aid kit in this suit, but it's for you. It's for the suit host. It's not for other people. And Silverback chimes up and he's like, help me, can't move. And he's like, shut up. You're the reason this happened. All right. Okay, look, call 911 or something. And then he sees an ambulance along the way. He's like, all right, fine, we don't need 911 to show up. And the Suit's like, oh, there's a threat. There are sirens. And he's like, no, they're here to help. Would you stop the threats constantly? So he manages to concentrate and yell at the Suit and override its will and access the first aid thing, which is essentially a small little scarab-looking little, like, tiny like from the Mummy, those little things, but like mechanical. And the suit's like, okay, that is the transbiotic anti-trauma unit. How in the world did you just access that against my will? And he's like, whatever, how do I use it? And he's like, well, put it on this wound. And he put it on the wound, and the thing crawls inside him. And he's like, okay, well, that's gross. And the paramedics come up, and they tell him to get away. And he's like, look, just save him. Just save him. That's all I want. Meanwhile, I'm going to be taking the big robot gorilla. And he picks him up, carries him to an abandoned building, and just throws him down. And Silverback is like, whoa, what's going on? What are you doing? And he's like, look, this is abandoned. I just want to know what you want with my friend Paco. And basically he's like, look, we weren't after your friend. We were after his friend who got the Blue Beetle idol. And I'm going to guess that that's you, right? And Jaime starts to walk away. And he's like, wait, where are you going? He's like, you're paralyzed, dude. I can just come back and get you later. He's like, wait, if you don't get me back into my body, I will be stuck here forever. He's like, I'm supposed to care about a robot. He's like, no, I'm a human. I use this combat chassis, and I need to transfer my mind back soon, or else I'll be stuck in this thing forever. And he's like, don't care, bye. So he flies away over to the hospital where Paco is being held. The suit tells him exactly where he's located, and then he just sits in the waiting room hoping for him to, I think, get out of surgery. Brenda shows up along with her aunt later on, and the doctors are like, okay, we have no idea how this kid's even alive, but he is, and we should probably get a CAT scan because I feel like I saw something in him when I was operating on him. And Brenda goes up to Jaime, and she basically just confesses, like, oh, I feel so bad, this is all my fault because he asked me out and I turned him down. I should have said yes. Oh, God, I'm a wreck, and she runs off. Meanwhile, Brenda's aunt shows up and is like, hey, Jaime, we need to talk about a certain legal problem that I think you can help Paco avoid. How about we go talk back at my house, in my office? Sound good? And the suit's like, she is lying. Stay away from her. And Jaime's like, dude, not everybody's after us. Just chill. So then we cut to the Reach ship, which is 120 miles over Earth, and they're scanning down, ready to go down for Jaime. But they get calls back from high command saying that, hey, everybody's being called back because we're doing a massive scale invasion and we need all the firepower we can get. And we're going to invade the Blue Lanterns planet of Odin. So we're just crossing over with the Green Lantern mythos because sure, why not? And apparently somebody tipped off the location of Odin, which was secret before, but now the Reach is like, oh yeah, no, this is important. Okay, yeah, screw this little one busted Beetle. We're going back to that. So the Earth is safe, I guess, from the Hive for a temporary moment of time. We go back to the home office of Brenda's aunt, and Jaime's like, wow, you got a nice collection of art here. And she's like, yeah, you like it? See, I think all of these things are really important, but the most important thing is actually the rug you're standing on. And Jaime looks down at it, and it has a binding circle woven into it, like a magic sort of thing going on. And she says it was woven in India from the hair of ritually blinded orphans. So Brenda's aunt is not good. But anyway, she triggers the spell with the magic word, and immediately the scarab's like, whoa, something weird's going on. And Jaime can't move his feet out from the circle. So basically, as soon as she pulls out a knife, the scarab is immediately like, all right, defense is up. And the aunt's like, I knew it. I knew it was you. That's supposed to be mine, and I'm going to take it from you. So Jaime starts firing off blasts. Well, the suit is. He's telling her to get out of the way because she doesn't want to hurt him. Or he doesn't want to hurt her. But the aunt's just like, dude, you can't hurt me at all. You're stuck inside that circle. I can take you on with my magic. And as if on cue, one of the security guards busts in after she hears Jaime screaming. Or after he hears Jaime. After he hears Jaime screaming. I don't know why the pronouns are so hard in this one. But he hears Jaime screaming. And the aunt's like, what are you doing? I told you to wait outside. And he's like, I heard screaming. And so the suit just grabs him by the arm because he's close enough within reach and throws him at the aunt. And he's able to get away from the spell, but it's not deactivating. It's not breaking. It's expanding, and it destabilizes. It absorbs the entirety of the house, and then it just disappears. So maybe she's dead. I don't know. Regardless, we cut back to the hospital. The heart monitor is going crazy on Paco, and the nurse comes in, sees what's up, and as soon as she gets in, it's all fixed. But then we see that Paco is being surrounded by the same sort of blue beetle energy as Jaime usually is. Knocks out the nurse and jumps out a window, and we see he's this red and black scarab looking guy, and apparently his emergency backup protocol has been initiated. Step 1, locate and destroy the scarab Kajida, which also was revealed earlier in the issue that the scarab Kajida gave his name to Jaime. So Jaime knows that the thing is called Kajida. Anyway, this issue is good. I really like it. I think it's still taking more steps against Jaime and how he deals with the suit, and how like they're starting to come to a little bit of understanding with each other. Not a very good understanding, but you can see them taking steps towards, Jaime's learning how to overcome the suit's obstacles that lay in its way, and the suit's starting to just, like when Jaime says, how do I use it? The suit was just like, okay, here's how you do it. I'm interested to see if Silverback keeps being recurring. I'm interested to see what happens with the ant, considering she just exploded in a giant magic fireball. And of course the big reveal at the end that Paco is now scarabized. I'm curious to see if that's going to be a recurring thing, if that's going to be like his venom to Jaime's Spider-Man. I don't know. A lot of interesting things coming up. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 7.5. I liked it a lot. It was a very well done story, and I would like to see where it's going next. So yeah, Blue Beetle. Check it out. Legion of Superheroes number 5, written by Paul Levitz, art by Walt Simonson. We left off last issue at the end of an arc, I guess, and this issue is I don't know. Oh my god, this issue was impenetrable for me. First off, the art changed, and it's a much like scratchier style, and I was just kind of associating certain images of certain people to their actual names. So now that's just out the window, and so there's this framing device across the issue of each page is happening at like the hour mark. So it picks up on the first page at 6 a.m., the next page is 7 a.m., then 8 a.m. But these things that happen on the page only take like a minute or two. So it makes me think like, okay, so then this is happening a full hour later. But some pages are like immediately following each other, so that can't be the case, and I don't understand how that's supposed to work. So whatever, I'm just gonna try here. 6 a.m. A bunch of the Legion people are waking up at headquarters. Some dude with a beard is waking up next to this blonde lady who has dreams of predictions, and she didn't dream of anything, just a couple of rocks. And then they talk about having sex. 7 a.m. Someone who can shrink and grow is doing exercises on a tiny little treadmill, and her roommate is upset because she's making tiny little footstep noises. So she turns on a sound dampener. Number 3, Cosmic Lad, the only one I recognize really, is trying to basically find the Legion Lost. Like the book Legion Lost, we're just getting to the point where they realize that these people disappeared and they're trying to figure out where they are. 9 a.m., still trying to find Legion Lost, and another guy with like a backwards L on his chest, I can't remember his name, walks in and says like, hey, sometimes people just die. Like, it's not up to you to solve that. We have to move on. And Cosmic Lad's like, okay, yeah, I get it, but I'm going to keep looking. So he's upset that because apparently everyone thinks that they died. The dude with the weird like L on his chest walks into the cafeteria, and the Sunspot and the Cold guy are like angry at each other, like they keep bickering, and it's other people are having breakfast and they don't want to hear it. So this one girl just starts playing like the marimba, I guess, and they just like, oh god, this music, oh, we're leaving. Okay. Then we got Glorith, I think her name is, a witch-looking lady. And she's, I guess, writing back to her parents saying that Earth feels strange and there's some magical presence or something like that, and how she wishes she was back with them. She wants to leave the Legion. And then this dude comes in, the one who speaks in like French. And again, it's a full hour as I flip the page here, but they're literally just continuing the conversation. So, no. Anyway, he convinces her to come out of her room and come down and get some food. And we pass through the Hall of Fallen Legionnaires, and we see the Legion Lost is there. And then we go down into the mess hall, and we see a bunch of people just chilling out eating. And he's like, oh, you should go hang out with some of these people. They want to be your friends, and blah, blah, blah. And this one dude named Hadru, I think, is like dragging Glorith by the hand. And I don't know. He's fine, whatever. We cut back to the Sorcerer's World, who I guess Glorith was writing to her parents. And her parents are like, yeah, okay, she has some issues, but she needs to stay with the Legionnaires. Her fears are what the Legion can manage. Fine. We cut to the next hour. It's the Science Police headquarters where chameleon lad, kid, boy, whatever, is. He flew in and he's like, hey, I'm here to talk to you about the Panoptes mission, which I think is the one that just happened. And they're like, oh, well, we have some grave concerns about the Dominator incursion, but training the new Legionnaires is the real issue. And then we see them training the new Legionnaires, aka that one lady from like page 1 of first issue. I don't care enough to find out the redheaded one. And she's dodging around some laser blasts and from Shadow Lass, I guess. I'm going to guess these names mostly. And then Ultra Boy is practicing in the other room, and then a whole hour passes. He's still practicing, and Phantom Girl shows up and was like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, you're messing up my aim. And she's like, oh, is that how you treat the girl of your dreams? And then a whole hour passes, and then they're still just throwing and tossing. And he's like, oh, well, I guess I could skip practice and get physical exercise in a different way. And she's like, not until you take a shower. You stink. And then we're just done with that scene. And then we have the girl with the predictions looking at a bunch of pictures of stones at Mon-El's request because they could always be some dangerous prophecy dream. So they're just looking through that. We see, I don't even know who, just having a video call with Saturn Girl and some kids that she's taking care of while she's off duty. Bouncing Boy comes in after some exercise and talks to Duplicate Damsel, who's doing like nothing, like he's just trying to hit on her. We see the cold dude from the beginning of the issue getting back from a party drunk and like having some kiss marks all over his face. He's tackled by this golden looking woman who wants to know where the party was. He directs her that way, and then he falls asleep. We see Vril Doc's Brainiac 5 trying to fix a spaceship time bubble thing in order to travel through time and avoid the flashpoint barrier. So I guess maybe search out if something happened to the Legion Lost. And then the end of the issue is the winter solstice, and they are all gathered at Stonehenge, and they see the sunrise. Maybe that's the stone thing that she saw from before, but we don't get any follow-up on that, because that's literally the end of the issue. What the hell was this? I don't know. I don't know what any of this was, and I'm so angry at this book. Because every time they introduce a new character, they give the little box and the little thing that says, hey, here's who this character is. This issue, it was Saturn Girl and Block and some other stupid people I don't care about. But they don't do that with any of the characters that have been established in any previous issue, which means that if you don't know somebody based off their one appearance in one panel 3 issues ago, you have to go back and find that. And I'm not willing to do that. That's just poor writing. Straight up and out. If you've got a cast of 30 plus characters, you need to be reminding us of their names constantly. Oh, God. And art-wise, like I said, it's not as good as the other issues. And the other issues were shaky at best. Like, this is a step down. I give this a... Honestly, I give this like a 2.5. It's so bad. I hate this. I hate this book so much. And it sucks that on these weeks it's the last one. Because I want to leave on a better note, but I don't. I wish I could say I hope it gets better, but genuinely I don't think it will. And that's it. That is all the comics that came out from DC Comics this January 18th, 2012. Only 12 of them, and while I am hoping that DC balances the books better so that I don't have a week with 16 comics on it, I will always be grateful for the 12 weeks, so that way I can just take a breath for myself. But at the end of the show, I do have to tell you what's coming out next week. So next week, January 25th, 2012, holds such wonderful comics as the number 5 issues of Batman the Dark Knight, Superman, Green Lantern New Guardians, Aquaman, The Flash, The Fury of Firestorm, Justice League, The Savage Hawkman, All-Star Western, Blackhawks, Voodoo, Teen Titans, iVampire, and Justice League Dark. Additionally, there's the number 4 issue of Legion Secret Origin, which I am so totally super stoked about and not upset at all. By the way, Justice League, I'm just now realizing that was supposed to be on this week. That's the whole reason we're down to 12. I guess that got delayed for some reason. The flagship book just can't keep a schedule. Tisk tisk, Mr. Johns. But hey, if you have any thoughts on why Justice League got delayed, anything I've talked about this week, anything I'm talking about next week, or any books in general, go ahead and hit me up on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. That is DC Comics Podcast, all one word. Use the hashtag New52 and tell me why Legion deserves a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th chance, because I got to tell you, I'm already through 5 of those, so hey. Additionally, we have a Patreon at Mild Fuzz TV. That's all one word, Mild Fuzz TV. Every dollar in the pocket of me is a pocket not going towards the Legion of Superheroes. I'm salty. I'm just salty. I'm so upset at that book, and I'm gonna go to sleep tonight and I'm gonna dream of setting that book on fire. I hate that book. Okay, show's done. Oh, man, if there's any Legion fans listening to this show at all, please tell me what I'm missing here, because I genuinely do not get it. But that is it for me. And as always, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.